Most people know Odin and Thor from myth, but did you know that their names were carved into objects meant to heal, protect, cure, and conjure? Hello, Rune Scholar, wherever and whenever you are. I'm the modern Erilar, and today we'll trace where Nordic gods appear in real runic inscriptions and what those carvings were meant to do. You may recall the very exciting news from 2023 of the discovery of a 5th century bracteate from Vindelev, translated by Lisbeth Immer and Christer Vasshus, with the Proto-Norse inscriptions Jagas, which may be a name, and Is Vodnas Veras. He is Odin's man. But this is not the only inscription that mentions Odin, and he's not the only god whose name appears in a runic inscription. The only pagan god invoked on runestones in Scandinavia is Thor. His name appears on 6 runestones, and on 4 of the 6 stones, his name is in the formula Thor Vigi, meaning Thor bless, indicating either these runes or this monument. On the stones at Glavendrup, Viking, and Öland, his name is straightforward and recognizable, Thors ur Ride. Interestingly, the name of Thor at Södra Kvinneby appears in rare Viking-Age bind runes that utilize the same stave for all 3 runes, and the line in which he appears, Thor Vigi, is turned horizontally in contrast to the rest of the inscription that appears on the stone, making it less obvious at first glance. I rotated it here 90 degrees for clarity, so it's no longer horizontal, but you'll be able to read it more easily. At Jursta, a phrase that is probably Thor safeguard, appears in tent runes, where the staves are joined together in a saltir. And at Rök, which features several different types of encrypted runes, the name Thor is encrypted using hook runes. Following the logic that I explained in episode 3 on communication security using runes, the 333235 pattern indicates first in which of the 3 sections or 8s of the Futhark the rune appears, and then the position of the rune within the 8. So 3-3 is Thors, 3-2 is Ur, and 3-5 is Rith, again spelling Thor. One fragmentary medieval stick from Bergen also encrypts the name Thor using the same method, but with Kaun and Rith runes, and you will notice a change in spelling during the medieval period. 3-3 is again Thors, 3-4 is Os or Or, and 3-5 is Rith, still spelling Thor, but with an Os instead of an Ur. This rune stick is broken at the point where the 5th Rith rune appears, so it could be a person's name of which Thor comprises an element, such as Thorir or Thorgeir. But I find it really interesting that so many rune writers chose to encrypt the name of this popular Nordic deity. His name appears several other times with a range of dates. An Anglo-Saxon manuscript finished in the year 1073 and now in the British Library contains a short text we now refer to as the Canterbury Charm. To treat a vascular infection, it commands, "May Thor bless you, Lord of nature spirits." Again, we see the Thor Vigi formula here using the older spelling for Thor because this is pre-medieval. We're getting into the medieval period here. And it features a dotted Kaun to indicate a voiced velar plosive G sound instead of the voiceless K, usually made by Kaun or Ken, as it's called in the Anglo-Saxon Futhark. The Södra Kvinneby amulet from Öland gives us a lovely narrative charm that names the god in his later spelling. This one reads, "Here I carve protection for you. May Thor protect him with that hammer which came from out the sea." Yes, this word is upside down, and the O's here is short twig, where the branches fully cross the stave. We also see an interesting short twig ur rune on a silver dirham found on another Baltic island at Manjorde in Lilja parish. The coin was struck in 910 or 911, and it was found in a horn that contains coins no later than 1102. This inscription also probably represents the name of the god Thor. In an Elder Futhark inscription, Thor is given the Old Saxon name Tonar on the 6th century Nordendorf bow brooch, where he appears within a divine triad of the names Logetor, Wodan, and Blessing Thor. The first name probably refers to Lodor, one of Odin's companions also known from Völuspá, and we regularly hear of Odin and Thor traveling together in various sagas. If you are going to write the names Odin and Thor in Elder Futhark, these are the spellings I would recommend as being more historical. Similarly, Helmer Gustafsson suggested Tunur on an early Viking copper plate from Helbjerns on Gotland, which may be an early Nordic variant of Thor and could relate to the similar Tonar. So this one is Tunur. Thor and Odin again appear together on a rune stick from Bergen, dated to about the year 1185. It reads, "Hail to you and be in good spirits. May Thor receive you, may Odin own you." We know from Flateyjarbók, Eyrbyggjasaga, and Harbardsljóð that Odin was to take half of those who were slain in battle. So that may be where the ownership comes in this inscription. Runologists have suggested this could be a traditional greeting or possibly a literary quotation, like other known rune sticks from Bergen that preserve fragments of poetry. If it is a quotation from a poem, we do not have a surviving poem to which it corresponds, but it is written in an unusual meter called Galdrelog, literally incantation meter. So it's possible that this could have been some kind of charm as well, with at least one interpretation that it could be a charm meant to revive a corpse, but given that revenants are usually described in the sagas as being other than in being in good health and spirits, I don't agree with that particular interpretation. The spelling of Thor's name is again straightforward. Odin's, interestingly, has a dotted e's rune, shown here, which might be in this particular inscription to differentiate a short I sound from the longer E sound that appears in Tigi. Odin was named multiple times in another inscription from Bergen, dating to the last quarter of the 14th century. It again features a dotted e's in his name, and one has a bind rune of Or and Tors, while the other does not. This inscription reads, "I conjure you, Odin, with heathendom, greatest among the devils. Agree to this, tell me the name of the man who stole. For Christendom, tell me now your deed. One I mock, the other I mock. Tell me, Odin, now crowds of devils are conjured up with all heathendom. Now you shall get for me the name of the one who stole. Amen." Odin here is still addressed as a powerful entity who can accomplish superhuman tasks like finding out the name of a thief, but he is addressed fully within a Christian hegemony, which associated him with demons instead of in his own right, and further implying that Christianity had some power to compel him. Other inscriptions may refer to various epithets for Odin. We know that he was called things like son of Bor, sage, victory tree, or wanderer. Another Arabic coin, now in the Hermitage collection in St. Petersburg, carries an inscription that may refer to one of these bynames for Odin. The fourth rune is uncertain. It could be either an S or an R without the vertical line, and we do see other examples of a writhe rune without a stave, both at Sparlösa and at Gamla Ladoga. If it is meant to be an R, then the inscription is Gutter or Gauter, often a second element in personal names like Ausgauter or Vigauter. Gauter, as a name in its own right, is a known byname for Odin. But if the fourth rune is meant to be an S sound, the inscription may read gods instead. So this inscription is only uncertainly a byname for Odin. Somewhat more secure is a reference to Odin as the High One, first attributed by Detlev Eldmers in 1972. The word just below the horse's head is Hawaz, and High One is a known byname for Odin, but it could also just be a man's name or a title. Speaking of titles, on the Strängnäs stone written in Elder Futhark, we see the inscription Erilar's Woodnas. The first word is Erilar, a title that I discussed in detail in episode 24. The second word has a few potential interpretations. The word Oder could mean furious, wild, or possessed, or alternately sense, thought, poetry, or poem. Or maybe it is Woden, which means inclined to divine possession, but it may also be Odin, the name of the god. A possible interpretation of the complete text is the Eril who is divinely inspired, or perhaps divinely possessed. So this inscription may connect this particular Erilar with a cultic function. On the Rebe skull fragment, we see a charm invoking another divine triad, Ulf and Odin and High Tyr. Tyr here could either be the war god you would likely know by that name, but it may also be a component for a byname for Odin. Odin is called by many compounds where the second element is Tyr. We know Hropta Tyr, or sage, from Voluspa, Vera Tyr, or god of people, in Gylfaginning, and Her Tyr, or god of hosts, in Skålskapbormal. So you have options with this one. It might be Tyr, or it might be a byname for Odin. On the Skjölverstone, we can observe what may be a very dense bind rune, which looks like it represents 6 instances of the Tiwaz or Tyr rune, and 4 instances of the Ansus rune, Ansus meaning deity. If these are ideographic runes, this repetition might invoke the god Tyr and another unnamed god 6 and 4 times, respectively. So you could also choose to indicate some deities in writing ideographically. For example, the god Frö was also known as Ingvi or Ing. So you can use the Ing rune as an ideogram for Frö, though I haven't seen this in an inscription specifically yet. This lead spindle whorl from Saltfleetby St. Clement in Lincolnshire has been dated to the early 11th century. The runes include a dotted E in each of the first 2 deities' names. The inscription itself reads Odin and Heimdall and Tjalfa. They help you Ulfliot and then we can only guess so far what this last word means, but you can see the names for the Aesir gods Odin and Heimdall. The spelling of the latter is quite unique, but recognizable. There are many more deities in the Nordic story world whose names we know through literature or the study of place names. Runic inscriptions only represent a small portion of the surviving evidence for Nordic deities, and if you don't see your preferred deity listed here, I just haven't seen an inscription with that name yet. Dr. Jackson Crawford has a very helpful list of reconstructions of some of the missing names, if those would be of use to you. Thank you for reading the runes with me, the Modern Erilar.